Hi guys. Something happened this week and Tom's not happy about it.
Yeah.
What happened?
So, yeah, my home country has decided to commit harikiri on the world stage because, democracy.
Yeah, so this podcast, we're talking Brexit.
Yay, Brexit.
So, what is Brexit?
What is Brexit? Okay, let's start with an analogy. Europe, think of it as a classroom of, say, 25, 28, 30 kids. And for most of the time the class has been around, they've been fighting, like non-stop. If it's not, those two over there punching each other, there's someone over there, someone else is kicking someone else in the nuts. It's just constant. And then we had two major fights where some of them nearly died or did die and then came back to life. This is where the analogy breaks down somewhat. But bear with me. So eventually, after the second big fight, two of the kids said, let's stop this. Let's find a way to solve our disagreements. And that's when you started the process which led towards the European Union. Which is like a big club which you pay money into and then you get certain benefits. So, the one people know about is free movement of people. You don't need a visa. You can stay for as long as you want within there if you are from one of those member states. You also have free right to work, so you don't need to get an employment visa. You don't need to prove that someone else can be employed in your place. You just rock up, you can work there. Free trade as well. There's no tariffs, so it's just one big free trading block. And also later on, there was increased political power that they had, where they could set certain rules that everyone had to follow. And also, when it came to negotiations on the world stage, they would do it as one. The thinking being that you don't listen to 25 smaller countries of 30, 40 million people. You want to listen to one big super block of 350 million people. So it's like trying to be on par with the big boys like China, Russia, United States, that kind of thing. It did mean that you had to give up certain rights to self-governance, and that is what the UK didn't like. Certain elements didn't like. They always felt a bit separate from the rest of Europe. It's complicated, it's historical, societal, many factors, but it was always a reluctant member. And so eventually people started running on a platform of throw me in and I'll get rid of this nonsense because we feel it's affecting us, it is impacting our lives. Oh yeah, platform for people to leave, and that started picking up in the last election because there was a shift towards the rights politically, which is happening everywhere because people are sick and tired of bad economic growth, laws apparently out of their hands. There's been a shift back towards thinking of the good old days, basically being a fucking idiot. But so to win the last general election, the Conservative Party, the ruling party of the UK, said we will have a referendum on our membership in the European Union. And they thought they were going to win. They thought they were going to remain because they thought no one is going to be stupid enough to actually leave.
Well,
Then they completely discounted the fact that people really like certain topics such as sovereignty, immigration, and healthcare. And so the Leave campaign used these as things to say, if we leave the European Union, this will be better for us. And it was enough to convince people to leave. Now, this is the important part, is that this doesn't mean it's gone. It's still there, but it's like when you're at a party, you start saying, I'm going to leave. I mean, it's still early in the night. You thought you were having a good time until the guy says, oh, I want to leave. But he hasn't started picking up his coat yet. This case meaning Article 50 has not been invoked, which is... Oh God, I studied this for my master's and I'm trying to remember this. Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, which is the latest version of the Constitution of the European Union, is that if a member state wants to leave, they have to invoke Article 50, and then within 2 years they have to leave. They have to form an agreement with all the member states to agree, but it has to be within 2 years. It can only be extended with a unanimous vote by all member states to continue negotiations, which is not going to happen because various states have already made it very clear they want Britain out. It's like now that they want to leave, it's kind of like a spurned wife saying, "Go then, leave me," kind of thing.
Wait, why don't other countries want Britain in? Isn't Britain like an economic powerhouse?
Well, okay, yeah, economically it makes sense to have the UK in because it was the fifth largest economy, now it's the sixth. Yeah, when you say you're going to leave a large economic bloc, of course the markets decide that you are a fucking moron and want to leave. But it's also just that Britain has always been really, really rude to the rest of Europe. Like, it's condescending, patronizing, refuses to learn other languages. It's just an unpleasant entity in many regards, especially the people and certain politicians.
I think I saw John Oliver make a point about that, how every British person just like instinctively just wants to say fuck off to anyone else in the European Union.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I have a weird split personality on this because I am British, but I am also Belgian. And the British side of me does sometimes think, fuck off Europe? Like, at certain points.
It just runs in your blood.
It just runs in the blood. Like, when you see certain things happen, you go, oh, for fuck's sake, why? Like, why are you dragging us into this? Why? Often I feel this when Eurovision is on. That's for another topic. But yeah, that's what's happened. And I think we should talk about the referendum itself.
Yeah.
From the get-go, it was a massive shit show. It was just, like I said, just pull a random number out of my ass. 23rd of June, that's when we're going to have it. And then you had a campaigning period. And now, this is where both parties are to blame. Facts went out the window.
Oh yeah, I saw one about the NHS. So $350 million to the EU will go to the national healthcare. Pounds will go to the national healthcare system, which apparently now is not the case.
Okay, the basis for this number is that at some point, someone, I don't know, was tripping on shrooms or something, and suddenly came to the conclusion that the UK pays 350 million pounds every week into the European Union.
Is that true?
Yes and no. Yes, they pay that much in, but because they had to do special negotiations to get the UK in the first place, they got a lot of the money back in rebates, in funding. So it was closer to about 250, 200. And actually, when you look at the benefits which it got, which means no tariffs, easy immigration, which is a good thing. Immigration is a good thing. It's good.
Take it from two immigrants.
Yeah.
Take it from two immigrants in Singapore.
Vested interest aside, immigration is good economically. It means more people working jobs you don't want to do.
Yeah, so...
Fucking morons.
As you guys can tell, Tom is a bit upset about this. A little bit.
A little bit. So, yeah, 350 million was a lie. And a big button topic in the UK is the National Health Service, the NHS. Means free healthcare, point of delivery. But it has spent the last 15, 20 years, or God knows how long, in debt. It's a massive drain on the economy. It's this big hulking mass which is incredibly bureaucratic, inefficient, and just a lot of people hate it because doctors get paid very poorly on it. They work insane hours. If you need to make an appointment with your GP, you could wait up to 10 weeks to see him. And often, you don't get the treatment you need. So this is anecdotal evidence, so take it with a pinch of salt. Several years ago, my father was feeling very ill, like really, really ill.
Oh dear.
And he tried to make an appointment to see a specialist. He went to be seen twice. Once he got the most cursory of examinations, said, "You're fine, get out." Second time, doctor didn't even examine him. Just looked at him and said, "There's nothing wrong with you, get out of my office." Then he started feeling better. And then several years later, when they had moved to Switzerland, my dad felt ill again, went to see the doctor, got properly examined. He has hepatitis E. At one point, he turned yellow because of how badly his liver was affected. It was some kind of infection he got from many, many years ago, finally resurfaced. And the second time, had there not been enough treatment, there was a strong likelihood that he could have passed. So the NHS could potentially have been responsible for the death of my father.
Wow, man, that is...
Now, at the same time, the NHS does a lot of good. It has helped a lot of people. People who would normally not be able to afford healthcare have done very well by the NHS. It does a lot of good. I am for free healthcare. As it is, it's very poorly worked out, but that's because of politicians ruining it, not because of the healthcare. I have friends who are doctors and friends who are nurses. This is not, attacking them. This is just one bad case to prove that there are problems with it. Mm-hmm. So, of course, getting extra funding would be great.
Yeah.
But, of course, after we found out that Leave won, they said, oh, yeah, that number actually isn't true, and we can't guarantee it's going to go to the NHS.
Then why did they put it on a bloody bus, driving it around London?
Because you could get undecided voters to vote Leave. Because it's not about facts. In fact, just recently, I can't remember his name, but someone up in UKIP who helped with the campaign admitted, he said clearly, facts didn't help our case. I might be paraphrasing, but he pretty much said, we had to lie to win. They have admitted that they fabricated their claims. Which moves on to the second thing, immigration. A big thing that pushed certain elements of the British public, which I do not associate with, to vote Leave, which was they believe that immigration is out of control. It's not. And they thought that leaving the EU, they could more easily control their immigration, which they can't.
They can't. No, I saw someone take out an ad in one of the newspapers in UK, right? Mm-hmm. And it just depicted how it was only 0.05% of the population.
Oh yeah.
It's such a minor amount. I don't understand why people were so upset about it.
Well, it's because, we could spend half an hour and I could explain point by point. So I'll just try very quickly. I'll use an example of where I grew up, Southeast England. Where I live, there are a lot of Polish and Romanian people because when they joined in 2005, they all came to work in Europe in the UK, because they could earn more doing menial labor here than they could working higher in the jobs back in Poland and Romania. Which sucks, but the thing is, a lot of them were really, really hardworking.
Well, my camera just died.
Yeah, her camera just died. So...
We were talking about Polish people.
Polish people. Before we begin, always remember, kids, bring your SD cards.
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
But, yeah, so the English people they brought on to do the work, they did so little work, they couldn't be paid by commission, they had to be paid to minimum wage.
Oh, dear.
And the farmer said, if I hired only English people, I would lose my farm because I won't be able to afford it. I would lose money.
Oh.
And it's just that, there were some bad eggs, but that's always the risk you run with any breed of people. A lot did work very hard, but it also meant that in English high streets you'd see Polish cafes, Polish shops. Actually, where I grew up, there were a couple of Portuguese shops. Oh. And for some people, they felt like they'd lost their identity. They felt like it was no longer English. To which I say, yeah, now you know how people in Costa del Sol feel. Like Spanish people walking around can't speak Spanish anymore because all these English sods sitting around in English pubs buying English food at English shops. Whatever, hypocrisy is another thing. But, yeah, broader issue about immigration, which is what we are trying to talk about. Actual EU immigration is a very small part of immigration into the UK. The majority is still outside EU immigration, which was already controlled by Westminster. So leaving the EU has no impact whatsoever on that. And in fact, once again, the Leave campaign have come out and said, we can't actually change that.
So you know what scared me about like the whole vote for leaving, right?
Uh-huh.
Was the whole demographic.
Yeah.
So a lot of young people voted to stay and remain, and the old people are like, no, screw you, we need stuff for our health, and they voted to leave.
Yeah, there's a very good graph out there.
I think Huffington Post made it. So basically, most of the people who wanted to stay were young people, and most of the remain votes came from Scotland and Ireland, right?
Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland.
Important distinction.
Yeah, and most of the people who didn't want to stay, they wanted to leave the EU, were from the south of Great Britain, which is which part again? Wales? I don't know my geography.
Wales is a separate country in the west part, but like, farmlands, working class areas, poorly educated areas.
Yeah.
Just saying that's where the demographics were. The cities wanted to stay, like London, Cambridge, Manchester, York, Leeds, Liverpool. I think Leeds wanted to remain. So the cities wanted to remain because they benefited from being part of the EU, whereas on the outside, they felt that they didn't get anything, but they did because of EU investment, which they weren't told about. Well, they were, but not in the right way, so they didn't find out. Because of the papers they would read won't.
Should we pause? Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the thing about being in the Ratchet Nomads.
Noise pollution, yay!
Because we keep hopping from cafe to cafe because we have no place to record.
Uh-huh. Oh, to have money for this kind of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, most of the people who voted to leave in the end were all the people who have less of a future to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
God, this is dark. Basically, they're gonna die sooner than the young people. They're gonna have to live with the fallout from leaving the European Union for longer.
So a lot of young people have been really pissed off about that because they're basically like, you screwed us over for the future, man. You guys gonna die soon. We're gonna have to live with this shit.
Yeah. So there have been a lot of people who have said that maybe older or just old people should not be allowed to vote in these referenda.
Well, what do you think about that? In general, for some policies.
Well, I would argue that issues like the European Union should not be voted on at all because people as a mass, as a horde, are fucking stupid. They don't listen to facts. They don't do their research. They don't weigh up policy papers. They don't look at economic models. None of that. Because they have better stuff to do in their time. They are attracted by catchy phrases, which is fine for election campaigns. But when it dictates the economic, political, social future of your country, leave it to people who have time to learn about this crap.
So leave it to the politicians to vote.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh God, I
yes,
feel.
girl. Okay.
But okay, taking back to the original question, should all people not be allowed to vote in these things? When you start imposing restrictions on who can and cannot vote, that is potentially a very slippery slope.
Yeah, because like for the past, I don't know, century or so, many people have fought for the right to vote, like women, African Americans in USA. So now to even bring up like restricting another age, like not age group, but like another demographic, it's kind of a tricky slope to climb up.
Oh yeah, like this time last century, you can vote. Well, where would you have been? Philippines. Well, you wouldn't be able to vote regardless.
I probably would have been on a farm.
True,
Yeah.
probably. But yeah, where I would have been, which is somewhere in Bristol, I think.
Yeah.
Or no, Birmingham. Either as, well, working in a factory probably, or a blacksmith. That was something else my family did. I would have only just have had the vote for the last 20 years. That was the last time economic and social restrictions were removed for men in the United Kingdom. Women couldn't vote.
Yeah.
Not until after the First World War, and only because of their contribution to the First World War. So it would feel like we are regressing in terms of our political developments if we start imposing these restrictions. Counter argument, you shouldn't have a say in what doesn't matter to you. So if you are probably not going to feel the benefits from something for a long period of time, you shouldn't necessarily have as much a say as someone who will have to deal with those repercussions for longer.
Like, I don't know, let's take Brexit into example, right? I would think instead of having the same weightage as the younger generation, the elder or like the older generation in general should have more of an advisory role with their votes. So it would matter a bit, they can still have their say, but ultimately, in the long run, the younger vote would matter more because they have to deal with this.
Yeah. There's a secondary problem to that. It's that young people don't vote. Like, yes, 75% of youth voted to remain, but only 43% of the UK youth turned up. Partly this is because the referendum took place just when Glastonbury, the largest music festival in the UK, started.
Wow.
So immediately that's several 100,000 people nowhere near a voting booth. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I hate to admit this, but I probably would be at the music festival partying it out instead of voting.
Well, I'm not sure if you could because, for that you need to either live there or...
I mean, if I was living there, I would probably be at the music festival.
Yeah, actually I have family who live nearby. I could have got tickets. Yeah, but yeah, like even without that, historically the youth don't turn out to vote because they don't feel part of the democratic process. Which is partly because they are brought up not believing that they are part of the democratic process.
People just feel like their votes don't matter.
Oh yeah, because they're never involved, they're never part of the discussion. Very often you're told, when you're older you'll know, when you're older you'll understand. So you grow up not having an interest in politics because it's not put in you from a young age.
Which is kind of scary. Like, because many young people just grow up and they eventually realize, shit, I'm getting to that age, what do I do now? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, so we are raising a generation of apathetic voters. It's not like in the 60s and 70s where there was this massive grassroots movement trying to get everyone to get involved in the national conversation. Like, the turnout for the EU referendum was the highest voter turnout in the UK since the 1992 general election, which was after Thatcher got kicked out.
I can see why.
Yeah, but at the same time, that was still 75%.
But I think, like, in the world in general, young people are actually getting more and more restless and more people are actually starting to vote. Like, we can take US in, for example. I've never seen the younger generation so, like, upbeat about the elections. All thanks to Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, but also... people also seem to think that getting angry on Facebook or Tumblr constitutes being part of the political discussion.
Okay, I don't mean that. I mean the actual voters, but
we'll see.
If people keep talking, it's good enough, honestly.
Maybe take it from me as someone who has studied history. Very little shit got done by people talking about it. Point of the matter is, unless you go out and do something, you are not taking part, you are causing white noise. You are part of that problem. I admit freely, I didn't vote. Not because I didn't want to, I really wanted to, but because the postal votes didn't get sorted out in time. I wasn't given enough time to sort it out, and I don't have family nearby my constituency to be a proxy vote. I don't know anyone anymore where I'm registered to vote. Well, I did, but not well enough to ask them to make a very important political decision for me.
You look at the votes and it's just scary. 51% to what?
51.8 to 48.2 or something.
It is such a small margin.
It is, and Also, because yes, it's a high voter turnout, but it's not the overwhelming majority. It just shows how divided the country is, and also I would argue you shouldn't be putting these kind of decisions to the general public, because the UK is not Switzerland, which has hundreds of referenda, because that's how their democracy is set up. It is set up entirely as direct democracy. Everyone has a say.
I think it's gonna run out soon, so.
Okay, better make it snappy then. Yeah, Switzerland, everyone votes about everything, whether it's local politics to federal politics. People turn up and vote. That is their tradition. That's how they've been doing it for 800 years. We've very rarely ever done that kind of stuff. Like the last referendum we had before this was a Scottish independence referendum.
That was just a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And before that, I can't even remember the last referendum. Like, it's definitely not while I was a voting age. So, it was a stupid move and run by people who didn't have the interests of the population at heart. Because a lot of the Leave campaigners were doing it to further their own political careers. They actually didn't necessarily want to be successful.
Oh yeah, Boris Johnson, he moved to the Leave campaign just to get rid of David Cameron.
It's because he wanted to humiliate Cameron.
Yeah, something like
and
that.
then further his own political career. However, he has now pulled out of the race for becoming the next prime minister.
Politics.
God damn it, Carla! Memory cards.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to bring the right memory card. I only have a shitty 8 GB one, which apparently isn't enough for the podcast.
Yeah,
Go figure. So what were we talking about? Something shaft.
Shafts, yeah, we were shafted by the lies of politicians with vested interests.
Boris Johnson, hey.
Well, Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage, who is possibly one of the most disgusting frog people I've ever met.
Oh, but the main face of it all that I know of is Boris Johnson, and I need to point out how much he resembles Trump. I'm going to edit his face somewhere inside, but he looks so much like Trump. It's hilarious.
He does, and I mean, he's less despicable than Trump because he's actually quite funny and relatively intelligent. Like he's not a stupid man. Okay, no, he is a stupid man. He's a fucking clown, but he does have some intelligence to him. And to it, he is the only person I know of who was able to face one of our most vicious journalists in the face and not crumble underneath his questioning.
Okay, that's impressive.
Yeah, when I remember the politician, the name will flash here somewhere. But yeah, obviously there's no right or wrong answer to this. I think, end of the day, should all people be allowed to vote is just one question, which is actually a bit of a red herring.
I forgot where I watched this, but it was one of those science YouTube channels. So basically, it said that the more people you get to put in for a decision, right, the more right the answer would be in a sense. So I'm gonna horribly explain this because this was months and months back, so I forgot most of it. But basically, there was this one point where a military plane from US, I think, went missing. And they had absolutely no idea where it went. So what the general did, or whatever high-ranking official that it was, was he went to all his subordinates and he asked them an opinion on where they think the plane landed. And he grabbed all of their answers and totaled them, right, and averaged it out, the location. They went there, and it was just a few miles short of where the plane actually crashed.
Really?
So that was pretty accurate, yeah. So it is an actual thing where the more people you get in to vote or choose a decision, it actually is the best answer. So while I am kind of annoyed that the old people kind of screwed it up, I still think everyone should vote because eventually all the negatives and the positives will like average out in the end, and it will all balance out, and you come at the right answer.
Maybe they should have made voting compulsory for
Yeah,
this referendum.
maybe they should have made voting compulsory.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a counter to that thing. The problem with that example is that, yes, he asked for his subordinates, but they were all people familiar with what was happening. They were had some aspect of knowledge about planes and where they would land if they got shot down / were missing. An equivalent for the EU referendum would be if the same air marshal, general, whatever, went down the street and asked the man in the pub, where do you think the plane was?
Yeah.
It's like, and when the man asked, what the hell are you talking about? He started saying shit like, planes fly, dogs swim, and just start saying random things and go, damn it. Like, you know,
Okay, yeah.
you are
I
getting
get
more
your
people
point.
to take part in the conversation. But it's not a good contribution to the conversation.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I guess in general, people just need to know more about politics. Like, I don't understand why so many people nowadays are so like apathetic to it, because it will affect you whether you realize it or not. These tiny changes would actually have huge effect.
Yeah, I mean, I am personally not a massive fan of democracy.
Well, I mean, I'm a bit more of a socialist deep down.
Well, I mean, I liked socialism, but I've always been a fan of authoritarian regimes where
You do realize Donald Trump is slightly authoritarian, right?
no. That's not the. That's no.
So Tom is a secret Trump supporter, apparently.
Make America
Great again.
slightly less shit again.
Make America great again. I mean, democracy, I don't know, because like it just encourages like a huge like, what would you call it? Like a crack between the different classes, I feel.
Yeah. Oh, you really sound like a communist right now.
I mean,
Class
okay,
struggle.
I would like
Seize
to
the
think,
means
okay.
of production.
Okay, I would like to say that communism sounds great in theory.
Indeed, comrades.
But in reality, so far it's not really worked out that well.
You don't say.
I mean, you know, North Korea is doing a little bit unwell, right? I mean, in theory it works well, like to share the wealth among people, you know, take...
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, it's just one experiment which didn't necessarily work out. That's not to say capitalism is the way forward, because that's also...
It's not working that great either. I mean,
No.
some people at the top would say, like maybe the top 1% would say it's great. The rest of us,
Yeah, I mean, whatever. This is something which obviously we'll never agree
It's
on.
never going to be a right answer.
But the problem with democracy is that you are giving the same amount of weight to the voice of someone who is not educated in a topic with an expert. And this is very telling. One of the famous soundbites from the referendum was Michael Gove, who is Justice Secretary right now, I think, former Education Secretary. Awful. I wanted to kill the man when he was Education Secretary.
Why?
I'll say later. But he said famously in a debate, people are tired of listening to experts.
Yeah.
Now, that is a statement which should never be said in any context, whether it be political or economical or just, for example, medical, sexual.
You just always want to listen to the best.
Yeah.
Or, like, supposedly the best.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if, say, in football, I'm saying football because Euro's going on, if the players suddenly said, oh, we're tired of listening to the expert, Mr. Manager, we're going to ask the guy up in row Z's what he thinks we should do.
I think it's just people are just tired of the system in general, because a lot of people just feel like whatever they say just has no matter, so why should they listen to the system or the top? So they're trying to shock the system in a way by choosing the most stupid answers.
And yeah, that is part of what pushed the leave vote. A lot of people did it as a protest.
They just didn't realize how much effect that would have.
They just realized that's not how democracy works. You want to show dissatisfaction, you go and you fucking vote in a general election. You don't wait until a referendum which decides your country's future.
I saw a few news articles about how people were just like, no, I voted leave because I was pissed off. I didn't actually think we would leave. If you're gonna vote leave, if everyone votes leave, of course you're gonna leave.
They didn't think everyone was gonna leave, and I mean, it's
logic is breaking down.
It's when you see these kind of things, and then you look over across the ponds from the UK. I know we're in Singapore. Across my theoretical ponds, where often nothing gets done in Congress because the two parties just refuse to agree.
Yeah.
And where you see these massive battlegrounds happening between Democrat and Republican, where the difference is fucking small. And you look back to dictatorships where the dictator says, this is what's going to happen, and then it happens. And you go, you know, it'd be nice if that happened now and again, that when someone says, this is what's going to happen, and it doesn't get watered down.
Yeah. It's just, the whole world is a mess right now. I mean, between UK and Philippines, because I have to be invested in that since my family came from the Philippines, and US, where most of my family lives, so...
Oh yeah, Duterte.
Yeah, so one country I'm pretty invested in already screwed up. Well done, Philippines. My dad would disagree, but well, I don't know what his perspective is. I'm just praying. Like I don't believe in religion, but whatever God is up there, if there is a God,
Satan.
Please Satan. Oh my God, I'm just like, please America, vote right, because I kind of want to go back there and work when I grow up. I don't want to be going back to a country where like a blonde doofus is running the country going, we're gonna make big changes. We're gonna do it bigly.
Yeah, we'll do big changes. What are big changes? I don't know, but they will be big.
Because I don't want my plane to be crashing into a giant wall when I go back there.
When you have to wait for the great like anti-foreigner dome to open to let the planes come in. Brexit is a terrible decision. I don't care which side you voted, because I can see a couple of the arguments for leaving, national sovereignty, whatever, which I don't agree with, but I can see why that would matter to some people. But when you are unhappy with something, you don't leave, you fix it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we were moving to that point anyway. It's inevitable. Nation states don't matter anymore. They stopped mattering when global corporations were able to bully countries into doing things they want to do. America is at the whim of corporations. If you don't agree with that, you are fucking deluded. It's like so much is affected by vested corporate interests nowadays around the world. To believe you actually have national sovereignty to begin with, it's a lovely dream, but that's what it is. It's a dream. Like, it's better that you move towards the lesser of the two evils, which is, yes, maybe the EU is undemocratic. There is a democratic deficit, but there is a net positive from what it does in terms of the regulation of work, free trade, movements, making sure you get fed properly, right to education. There's so much the EU does, which is fantastic. It does so much good to everyone who joins. And people don't like it because it means you're not allowed to do exactly what you want to do. But that's also something you have to do when you agree to be part of society. Like, I can't do whatever I want, you can't do whatever you want.
No one is truly free.
Exactly, like freedom is a relative concept. And, you know, being free means nothing when there's nothing to be free for. Food for thought. I mean, obviously, this is one very strong opinion from one very loudmouthed Brit.
Okay, we were trying to summarize just now. This is gonna be a hell of a video for me to edit.
Yay!
Practice for school. Okay, we were summarizing right now. TLDR. Don't be stupid.
Okay, too long didn't read. Referendum, stupid. We have to see what happens.
Brexit, Tom is sad about it.
Yeah,
Well, not
well-
sad, but
Angry mainly, and I've been looking into becoming just Belgian because right now that is a better position to be than English. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter that much to the everyday Singaporean, apart from unless you want to travel to the UK
or economic wise
Or
in the
e-
long run.
in the long run. But you won't see that impact until whatever trade agreement Singapore has with the UK, because they'll have to do it independently. That could take
Yeah.
years,
True.
years.
Well, UK is going down. The country that used to hold control of almost everyone, including us, Singapore, is going down. So
Yeah.
Tom's enjoying the downfall.
Hey, at least I'm not on the boat while it's sinking.
Yeah.
Well-
So till then, guys,
Till then,
don't be stupid. Bye.
laters.